Hey everyone, welcome back to Age and Education channel. Today we shall look into the chapter Heat. So what is heat? We often use this term heat, right? Today we shall learn about this concept of heat. First of all, what is heat? Heat is a form of energy. It is a form of energy and then it can be transferred. So if you read it together, heat is a form of energy that can be transferred. Okay, what are the conditions of this transfer? The transfer happens from an object of higher temperature, from an object of higher temperature to an object of lower temperature. Okay, so from higher temperature object to lower temperature object. Okay, now then till when this transfer continues, this transfer of energy from an object of higher temperature to an object of lower temperature continues till they achieve thermal equilibrium. Oh god, what is this thermal equilibrium? It's there's nothing so much fancy about it. It is just that thermal equilibrium means till both the objects attain the same temperature. Okay. So if you read everything together, you can easily define this term heat. So what is it? Heat is a form of energy that can be transferred from an object of higher temperature to an object of lower temperature till they attain thermal equilibrium or till the temperature of both the objects gets same or equal. Okay, so this is the concept of heat. Now, with this concept of heat, we will further delve into other associated areas like what are the effects of heat? Okay, what are the effects of heat? And we should also look into this concept of temperature. What is this temperature? Okay, and we will further look into how the temperature is measured and what are the applications of varied effects of heat, everything. Okay, so before we deal with this effects of heat, we shall first look into the concept of temperature. So what is temperature? Temperature is a measure of how hot or cold an object is. Okay, so it is the measure of hotness of an object. Hotness of an object. If an object is having a lower temperature than its surroundings, then it shows that the object is cooler than its surroundings. But if an object has higher temperature than its surroundings, it will show that the object is hotter than the surroundings. Okay, temperature as such is so simple concept that you can easily sense, like your body senses too can understand that an object is either hot or cold. Though with your senses, with the human senses, we can't accurately predict the temperature, we can as such easily understand that one object is hot and one object is cold. Okay, so a simple way of touching it will help you understand this basic difference, but you can't accurately predict how much hot or how much cold the thing is. And for this, you will have some equipment, right? Some devices can be used to understand, to know, to accurately derive the temperature of objects. Okay, we shall look into these devices too. And before knowing about these devices, we need some concepts. Okay, and these concepts will be covered in this effects of heat part. Okay, after we get into this concepts, we understand these, then we shall again come back into this part. What is it? The devices part. Okay, devices that measure the temperature. Okay, now about effects of heat. Here we have to cover two topics. What are those? Thermal expansion and change in the state of matter. Okay, changes in the state of matter. So what is this thermal expansion? Thermal expansion is a process where when an object is heated, it expands, and when it is cooled, it contracts. What is it? It is a process where an object, when heated, expands. What is the meaning of expanding? Expanding means that there will be some change in the length, area or volume based on the object. Okay, so when some heat is given to the object, it expands, and when it is cooled, the object will contract. Okay, so the process where an object when heated expands, and when it is cooled, it is contracted. Okay, when heated expands, and when cooled contracts. Okay, so what actually happens here? What happens is that if you take an object and the object has all the molecules in it packed, right? So whenever heat is supplied, these become more active and they vibrate faster. Their kinetic energy increases, and overall what happens? The average distance between two molecules increases, because of which expansion takes place. Okay, like this expansion can be in the form of linear expansion or lengthwise, area wise or volume wise, based on the object that you take. Like in rods, you can see linear expansion. It means that the expansion takes place with regard to the length. And how about area? When you take something like a plate, metal plate, then overall area increases. The expansion can be seen in terms of area. Okay, and when you consider something like a metal box, what happens here? You can see this expansion in terms of volume. Okay, so you can see this expansion in terms of either length, area or volume. Okay, so apart from this, what happens here? What we can say is that not all kinds of materials show the same same effect of thermal expansion. Like in some materials, like in metals which are good conductors, you can see that this thermal expansion is more as compared to in bad conductors. Okay, bad conductors will show less amount of thermal expansion as compared to the good conductors, right? So high rate of expansion can be seen in good conductors of heat. Okay, and next, if we have to get into applications, the popular applications that we can refer to are thermometers. Okay, thermometers use this concept of thermal expansion. And apart from that, we also know that the railway tracks has like a sort of gap in between. Why is it? It is because when the train passes on these tracks, because of the friction between the wheels and the track, what happens? Some amount of heat is produced. So as we have learnt, because of the property of thermal expansion, whenever there is some heat produced, this will expand, right? If you won't provide any margin for this expansion to take place without any hindrance, what happens? This may get some cracks and the entire track may break down, right? So to not allow this sort of breakdown of the tracks or some cracks being appearing on the tracks, it is so common that we can see some amount of gap in the railway tracks, right? So here we have used this concept of thermal expansion to make this entire railways and railway track thing to work properly, right? Next, about other thing. This is the most general thing I just want to refer to. Okay, when you take some bottle, okay, and it has a tight lid. With this bottle has a metal cap and it has a tight lid. Then what can you do to easily open it? Just think. If you just put it under the hot water, like if you just put some hot water on the lid, because of this thermal expansion expands, right? So when it expands, you can easily open this. So this is the most common application you may need in your daily life, right? So this is about the thermal expansion. And then we have to look into thermometers. Okay, thermometers, when we have to say about it, we will say about the scales too. Okay, we shall look in the next slide. So about thermometer, what is the utility of thermometer? Yes, you all know that it is used to measure the temperature. So how can this be done? It is done by using this property of thermal expansion. In most of the clinical thermometers, you can see that mercury is used. Why is mercury used? It is used because you can see more expansion, much more expansion even for slightest change in temperature, right? Even for slightest change in temperature. Because of this, mercury is popularly used in clinical thermometers. So what are these clinical thermometers? I had been using this word clinical thermometers. These are the thermometers which are used to measure the body temperature. Okay. How about the other type of thermometer? When I say clinical thermometer, it itself means that there is one other thermometer too, right? It's called as laboratory thermometer. We will look about the differences later. Okay, first of all, we will concentrate on how this thermometer will be and what are the different scales that are used in this thermometer and what are the points on it and everything else. Okay, so these thermometers use different types of scales. What are these scales? Celsius scale, next Fahrenheit scale, and Kelvin scale. Okay, and all these scales will have two reference points. What are those? One is freezing point, okay, and other is boiling point, right? So in the Celsius scale, the freezing point is 0 degrees centigrade and the boiling point is 100 degrees centigrade, right? And we are considering everything at 1 atmospheric pressure. Okay, so at 1 atmospheric pressure in Celsius scale, the freezing point would be at 0 degrees centigrade and boiling point would be at 100 degrees centigrade. So you can see there can be 100 divisions, right, in between 0 degrees to 100 degrees centigrade. And how about the Fahrenheit scale? In Fahrenheit scale, the freezing point is 32 degrees Fahrenheit and the boiling point is, yes, 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So how much difference? 180. So you can find 180 divisions in between the freezing point and boiling point in a Fahrenheit scale. And next in the Kelvin scale. In Kelvin scale, the freezing point is 273.15 Kelvin. 273.15 Kelvin. And the boiling point is 373.15 Kelvin. And here also, like in Celsius scale, you can find 100 divisions, right? So how about this Kelvin scale? It is a very important unit of temperature. It is the SI unit of temperature. Okay, SI unit of temperature is what I mean to say is, when I say Kelvin scale is important, a question, you can expect a question stating that what is the SI unit of temperature? Then you can say that Kelvin is the SI unit of temperature, right? So the Kelvin scale, the Fahrenheit scale and the Celsius scale can be used in the thermometers. Okay. Now about different types of thermometers. Earlier we have mentioned that thermometers can be classified into what? Clinical thermometers and laboratory thermometers, right? These clinical thermometers are used for what? Yes, clinical thermometers are used to measure the temperature of body, okay, and temperature of body, human body, right? And it is usually 37 degrees centigrade and the temperature does not go below 35 degrees centigrade or above 42 degrees centigrade, right? So always the temperature of the human body ranges in between 35 degrees centigrade to 42 degrees centigrade, and usually 37 degrees centigrade is considered to be the normal temperature. Okay, so the clinical thermometer is made based on this scale, okay, this range, and you usually mention it in Fahrenheit too, right? Now, laboratory thermometer. What about this? This thermometer is different from clinical thermometer because this needs a large range of temperature. It means here the range is so less, right? But here you want the range between minus 10 degrees centigrade to 110 degrees centigrade. It is because, as the name itself shows, it's a laboratory thermometer. It means that different types of temperature things are involved in the laboratories, right? So we'll have to measure many different type of temperatures, and you just can't confine the range to a limited one like in the clinical thermometer. That is the very reason it needs a larger range, and because of this the category is different, right? So the category of laboratory thermometers are different from that of the clinical thermometers, right? Now, if we get into the details of the making of this thermometers, right? The thermometers will be in this manner, right? If you consider the clinical thermometer, what is used? As I have mentioned, mercury is used. Why is mercury used? It is used because it has uniform rate of expansion, and the expansion is large. Large and uniform expansion can be seen even for slightest change in temperature, right? Even for small change in temperature, you can find large expansion, and the expansion is also uniform. And also the other property of the mercury is that it won't stick to the glass, it will just slide so easily. Okay, because of all this it can slide easily, and it has large and uniform expansion even for small change in temperature. Okay, because of that we use mercury, and every clinical thermometer will have a clink here. What is it? Yes, kink, sorry, not clink, kink. Okay, it has kink here. What is this kink? This kink won't allow the mercury to slide down. Okay, so this is about the clinical thermometer. And apart from mercury, in some cases alcohol is also used. Where is alcohol used? It is used in thermometers that measure very low temperatures. Where? In thermometers that use very low temperatures as compared to mercury. Okay. Now this is about thermometers, and apart from this, one thing I want to mention is that these days we see digital thermometers. What are these digital thermometers? These are also like clinical thermometers used for measuring temperature of human body. Okay. And these digital thermometers have plastic body and digital displays, right? Digital display. See, one thing in clinical thermometer uses what? Uses mercury, right? And this digital thermometer doesn't use mercury, does not use mercury. And here in clinical thermometer, the temperature has to be checked manually, like we have to read from the scale, right? There will be a scale I have mentioned, right? Fahrenheit scale or Celsius scale on the thermometer. We will look at this scale and we will check the temperature. Whereas here you need not take that pain, it is just displayed, digitally displayed, right? So it is more convenient to use digital thermometers, and these digital thermometers, as I have mentioned, is mercury free. Then how does this sense the temperature? It is using sensors. Okay, So these digital thermometers use sensors to measure temperature and display the reading. Okay. Again, if we have to get into details of what these sensors are, the concepts of thermistors or resistance temperature detectors, all these will come, and all this you won't understand and you don't even need at this point of time to. Okay, it is enough if you understand that digital thermometers are also one type of thermometers that are used to check the temperature of the human body, and it will have a plastic body with digital display, and they use some sort of sensors to observe the temperature, right? Okay, then we are done with some part of the chapter heat. We will later look into conduction, convection and radiation. It's all different ways of transferring heat, and apart from that we should also check the changes in the state of matters. Okay, so we will do all this, and then it means maybe in one other video I will finish everything and the heat chapter will be totally done. Okay, thank you for your patience. Okay, bye, see you.